Okay, everybody. Now that we've gotten everybody signed up for MyITLab, it's time to get actually into that particular system and see what it is that's going on. You really don't have to do the whole Pearson MyITLab mastering link that you'll see oftentimes in any of our documentation. That is the absolutely correct link. But quite frankly, if you just, whatever machine it is you happen to be working on at the time, just go to myitlab.com. And on the right hand side of the screen, what you're going to see is just a sign in for you. Go ahead and follow that one through. Once you are signed in, now depending on whether or not you've ever signed up for a My Blank Lab before, so if you've taken My Nursing Lab or My Math Lab or My Programming Lab, actually there's a whole host of them. If you've ever taken any of those before, you'll probably see a box for one of those concluded, or if you're taking it concurrently from one of those other classes. For us, uh, it should be really easy to find, but just in case, the name of the class specifically is College 48283, and the title will be RVC, and then in parentheses 18-3L. It's kind of like we're taking a math class or a computer class in prison or the military, the way they have us listed that way. All of that aside, if you just go ahead and click on that, you'll click right on through to the course. It doesn't really take too long to get everything up and running in MyITLab. One caution that I will have for down the road: if you find that you have a less than wholly robust internet connection, I will tell you honestly that here at my home office, there are times where I am getting, through just traffic in the neighborhood, etc., very slow internet connections. Think like your 3G, old-fashioned smartphones slow. In that case, it is oftentimes best to do one of two things. Number one, to walk away and come back a little bit later when you do have more acceptable and fast bandwidth. Or number two, I will actually oftentimes either go to, like a coffee shop up the road, or I'll actually go down to my office at work, etc. MyITLab doesn't require a ton of bandwidth, but especially on things where you're doing the training or the simulations, those do require just a little bit more. If you're doing the hands-on graders, things like that, you're really just downloading a file and using it on your computer and then uploading the file when you're done. Those don't really require that robust a connection. But if for whatever reason it feels like, hey, the internet's a little, dodgy today, it's coming in and out, just come back to it a little bit later if you're able. It cuts down on the amount of little issues that you might see with MyITLab, and just kind of makes the experience a little bit better overall. There's no reason to, go completely crazy when you think you click on a submit button, and in fact you have clicked on the submit button. It's just that because of the condition of your bandwidth, it just takes a good long time for that submit button to actually register, to get sent to MyITLab, to get processed on their side, etc. I have found that, just from my experience, I'm not telling you that this is necessarily anything that you have to do. But from my experience, or maybe from my patience level, I just say, okay, it's going to be one of those days. I come back a little bit later. Every time you sign into MyITLab, after you follow through to our course, that is, on the left-hand side, you will see the same menu items so that you can navigate around. You will always be greeted with the Welcome to MyITLab for CIS102 landing page. On this page, there's a couple of things just to distribute information that you may want down the road. Now, it's my intention to never change this page unless something has gone spectacularly wrong. Several years ago, MyITLab actually had a nearly week-long incident where they were no longer able to have students actually sign in. It was really, it was not a good week for students and instructors alike, many millions of us across the country. In that case, actually, here on the welcome screen, there was a replacement, but it is my intention to never change that, just so that You do have quick and easy access to things like your e-text. Actually, you can click through to there. There is a getting started guide on here. It's essentially the lower half of the paragraphs there. If you update a browser or get a new computer over the course of the 8-week course here, or if you just for whatever reason go to another machine and you need the browser settings to be changed, they're right here for you on that welcome page, so that you're not forever trying to scramble to find all of that additional information just to get everything up and running. Also, on the left-hand side of the page are notifications. I will not message you through MyITLab. Any communications I do with you individually or as a group are going to come through messages in Eagle. It's the most robust way to get a hold of you. It's the least error-prone way to get a hold of you. And from my perspective, it's the least likely to be incorrect way to get a hold of you. So you're more probably going to have your Eagle notifications forwarded to a place that you're going to get them, as opposed to your MyITLab notifications, which will go unnoticed forever. The only thing you might expect to see in notifications, and I do not expect that this is the case, is if, for whatever reason, now this happens very, very irregularly, but it does happen once every great often, is every now and again when you submit an assignment, MyITLab actually scans every assignment. It scans every assignment for plagiarism. It scans rather every assignment for how long did it take you, could this possibly be cheating, and it casts a very suspicious lens on you so that I don't have to. Every now and again, you'll actually see a little red mark there for notifications, and it'll say, something about a fraud detection or an academic dishonesty detection, and you'll click on it, and 98% of the time it actually goes away. The other 2% of the time, it'll essentially tell you to talk to the instructor. In that case, come talk to me, the instructor. And if not, it was just a mistake, a mislabeling, and they show up. It doesn't happen very, very often. I would say that out of every semester we have classes typically filled with about 30 people, and we have about 200 to 400 students. It happens to one student maybe. So out of 400 students, that's not a lot. But just in case it's you, I didn't want you to plot and think we're trying to single you out in some way, shape, or form. That's certainly not the case. Also located on the left-hand side, although it will be of no use to you right this very moment, is the grades. This is actually where the grade book essentially for the entire course is going to be stored. Eagle essentially has links back here to MyITLab to tell you when due dates are, but the two grading systems are actually separate and do not interconnect. So when it is that you absolutely positively, this is a normal behavior, think to yourself, gee, I'd like to know what my grade is. This is where you would come. You would come over here to the left-hand side after you sign into MyITLab, and you would go to grades. There is one quirk about the way MyITLab reports grades to you, is if you were to go in there after completing 1 or 2 or 3 assignments, there are many assignments in there, and 1 or 2 or 3 is really clearly not going to provide you with a really good indication of how your grade is. But you've done really well on those first 3 assignments. 100%. You're rocking it. You've got it. You're nailing it down. You're progressing as well as could possibly be expected. And you look back at that grade and it says, congratulations, you're failing. MyITLab does this thing where it says, here's the total points that you could possibly earn, and here's the total points that you have already earned. And then it does simple and stupid math on those things. And so for a very long time, it will give you a heart attack if you just look at that and take its word for it. Better than that is, my suggestion is wait a couple of weeks, let a few of those assignments accumulate, let a few points accumulate, and when you go back in there, you'll actually see a breakout for TIA study aids, grader projects, hands-on projects, the sim projects, etc. And actually what it'll do is it'll tell you your score awarded out of your score possible, and that'll actually give you a much, much better indication of how it is that you're doing in the class. So I know it's really tempting to peek right away and say, yeah, I want to see how this is going. But I really suggest you give it just a little bit of time so that some of those grades can start to accumulate, so some of that math can start to actually make sense as opposed to just, make heart attacks happen, essentially. Again, that's on the left-hand side here under grades. You will also see the student fact, the FAQ. You can follow through to that if you have any immediately addressable strange things that you see happening, like why can't I see the submit button? Things like that all show up in the FAQ. If it's not a problem that can be addressed there, shoot me a message. I'm happy to help. But that is always there most of the time, and this is true in a lot of IT work, is many of the issues that you'll have are actually browser and system related, and the easiest way to fix them is to sign out and sign back in. It sounds like a cop-out, but it's really the way it works. If you sign out, what it's going to do is it's going to flush and clear out the cache. Those are the stored files that have been essentially saved on your computer as a result of this open connection that you have with MyITLab. Over time, that file gets really big. Temporary files have these strange names, and oftentimes they're randomized and they're hard to get back to. And it just so happens that sooner or later your system is going to kind of say, look, I lost something and I'm not really capable of functioning the way you expected me to. Sign out, sign back in, keep moving forward. It really is not a big deal. Again, it shouldn't happen all the time. It shouldn't happen every week. But when it does happen, just be prepared for it. And sign out, sign back in, keep marching forward. Now, where you are probably going to live most of your time here in MyITLab is with the assignment calendar. So go ahead and click through to that there on the left-hand side. There are really two views that happen here in the assignment calendar. The default one is the calendar view. The other view is the to-do/completed view. For my experience, for my money, for my understanding here, the to-do/completed list is a little bit infuriating. It simply lists everything out in a linear format, and it doesn't really allow you to navigate back and forth in a clean and sensical way. It's my suggestion actually that you just stick with the assignment calendar view. What you'll notice is that I have all the assignments due in MyITLab on Sunday night. So this way, essentially, you can think of a regular CIS102 work week as Sunday to Sunday, and you have that amount of time to complete something. So I'm just going to go ahead and click through on the first real due date is the 22nd. So that means that class starts on the 14th, and this one is going to be the following Sunday. So not the very next day, but the following week. So your first full week of classes there. So if you go ahead and click on, in this case it's the 22nd, what you'll see is a list of everything available to you to support the material for the 22nd. On essentially the rightmost portion of that screen, so if you kind of divide those three content areas, on the left you have your navigation, in the middle you have your calendar, and on the right hand side you have the assignments portion. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is give you just a moment to scroll all the way down through that list and give yourself a heart attack. It's okay. It's totally normal. I would do the same thing if I was you. Let me paraphrase what you are thinking here. You are thinking, holy crap, look at all the work I have to do. There's no way I can do this. You're right. That's the impression that we've given you. Now hold on. It gets better. If you go ahead and scroll all the way back up to the top, for each of the chapters in the text, for each of the 4 different software areas in Microsoft, so the Word, the Access, the Excel, the PowerPoint. Later on down the line, there's also in HTML, there are literally dozens of additional support materials that you may find necessary, that you might find necessary, that you won't find necessary, or that you'll find absolutely necessary. Everybody is going to go back and forth between all of those every week. I wanted to make sure that if you were paying for a support material, you at least had the option to see it here. So the very first thing on Sunday, 22nd October 2017, Chapter 1 PowerPoint presentation. It is literally a PowerPoint presentation that follows along page for page for the content in your Technology in Action textbook. Number 2 on the list there, Technology or Chapter 1 audio PowerPoint presentation. It is literally somebody reading to you along with the PowerPoint presentation that is literally page for page a copy of the things that are happening in your Technology in Action textbook. The Chapter 1 chapter overview video, you kind of get the idea of where this is going. I wanted to make sure that if you are a visual learner, that you're not completely left alone in the online environment. So if you're a visual learner, come here to the Chapter 1 videos and watch along with the text. If you're an auditory learner, you listen and hear it better. There's the audio presentations. You come here, you listen along, and you can follow along with the text. If you just like, you're a visual learner, you like to see what's happening there, you can come back through here, check the PowerPoint presentations, and follow along with your text. If you're simply a textbook reader, and you simply want to just, look, I'm going to read the text, and then I'm going to do the work out of it. That makes sense to me too. Go for that. If you're what I like to call a gambler, if you're like, hey, I'm going to roll the dice here. I'm pretty sure I've got this concept stuff done. I've scanned through the book. I've scanned through one of these PowerPoint presentations, and I want to start taking some of the assignments. You know what? Go for that too. So there's several different ways for you to get the content. There's several different ways for you to listen to view, to interact with the content. They are all in here. If you choose to use them or if you do not, there is no penalty in either way. So anything that has a star that says not viewed, there is no points value associated with that. That means that if you do not click through to it, it will not have a positive or negative. It will not have any impact on your grade. For those of you, I've been teaching this course long enough, I've been teaching for long enough, I know that some students like to see, instead of the ambiguous orange star there, they have to click through and see all the green stars because, you know, green means go. That means I did a good job. You can go for that too. Go ahead and click through to all of those if you'd like. I just want to make sure that if it's a piece of support material that might help one student out, that it's there and it's available and it's present for every student to be able to see. Now, in that right-hand column, if we keep scrolling down a little bit, right past the TIA, that's Technology in Action, Chapter 1, SB2, those are the sound bites to listen to. Those sound bites actually help support the material again. You'll notice a Chapter 1, C1, that's Check Your Understanding, or CYU. That has a flag icon next to it. That actually means you have to go ahead and do that. So if you click on the flag, you're actually, hold on, before you click on the flag, if you've already clicked on the flag, that's my fault, there's going to be a pop-up window that pops up here. Go ahead and close that. Before we get into that, let's do this. In the kind of the middle of that far right-hand column, for the CYU, Check Your Understanding, the very first one, what you'll see are those three vertical dots there. If you go ahead and click on that, you can open it, which is just the very same thing as clicking on the flag. You can view submissions. What I will tell you is that each one of these Check Your Understanding, most of everything else, with the exception of the greater projects. The greater projects actually do have 3 submissions as well. The Check Your Understanding, I buried the lead there, actually has 3 submission attempts as well. Everything you get to do more than one time. That means that if you take it the first time and you're not pleased with your score, take it again. That means if you took it the first time and something, again, something very rare, but something that does happen, some kind of glitch happens, take it again. Uh, you've got 3 attempts at everything. What I will also tell you is if you're running out of attempts on something due to a technical issue, I will try to reopen that assignment for you so that you can take it again. So just reach out and say, hey, I tried to submit the assignment. It gave me 000, or whatever the case may be. And if in fact that's the case, yeah, I'm going to open that assignment for you to go in there and take it again. I think far and away the most important thing is not just that you get grades on these things. Far and away the most important thing is that you are really in control of the material that we're reading through here. So as we go through there, you've got a 60% on something and you're not happy with it, take it again. You've got an 85% on something, you're not happy with it, take it again. There's no penalty. You get 3 attempts at just about everything. And I only see the highest one. So there's no shame in it. It's like practice. I don't get to see anything. You can go ahead and take those 3 times or just 1 time, whatever, if 2's good, if 1 is good, that's all up to you. It's all good. I'm going to go ahead and close that window. And then the very last one is get information, which is almost entirely useless. Most of what get information does simply restates to you the title of the assignment. I think they felt they needed 3 dots for symmetry, so they added another essentially useless appendage there. And that's perfectly okay. As you scroll down through the list, I think in total there are around 9 to 11 total things to do between essentially the very first day of class and the very first due date, which is the 22nd. So that's, there are many, many times more materials in there for you that you may or may not use. There are considerably fewer of these actual assignments in that listing. If at any time you feel like you are not getting around in MyITLab, if for at any time you feel like you would like a little bit more help and support in just getting to know kind of how the system is and what to expect, just go ahead and reach out. I'm here to help. That's specifically stated why I am here. It leads you to a better experience. That's absolutely what we want to do. This next piece of the podcast is just, this would be, if it was me taking the course, this is what I would react to you with, is number 1, don't wait until the end of the week to get started on this stuff. Some activities are going to take you longer than others. Some individuals are going to take longer than others. It really just depends how comfortable you are with the material, what kind of background it is you have with the material, if you've ever taken an online course before. All of those things kind of, have an impact on how long it takes you to do the material. The earlier in the week you get started, the earlier in the week you can determine if, a life happening or a work happening is going to get in your way of being successful with the due date. And that means it is earlier in the week that you're going to be able to reach out to me to let me know that there's a problem, and for the both of us to negotiate a more appropriate due date for something for you. So the earlier in the week I hear that, the more likely it is I am to be flexible. If it's Sunday at like 11:58 and you reach out and you say, hey, I didn't think I'd have time enough to, or I just started and I'm not going to finish. Yeah, you gave yourself a minute to do everything. Like, that's late. Good, keep going, but that one's going to be late. So the earlier you get started, the more flexibility it is that you provide yourself. Number 2 is courses like this are really both a marathon and a sprint. I understand it's 8 weeks long. I understand that doesn't give us a lot of time. Believe me, the 8-week courses, even for us as instructors, feel like just an absolute sprint. But really, the way the material here for the course is is spread out for you, it's kind of like a marathon. I am, I'm fully on board with students who think that every point counts, and you're right, every point counts. I have seen lots of examples where, for a half a point or a point and a half, one way or another. That's the difference between a student with a grade that they're happy with and a student with a grade that they're not happy with. But here in MyITLab, there are there are literally thousands of points. Some of these assignments are half a dozen or a dozen or 15 points, and those all add up. That's absolutely part of the math. Those all add up. But if you are, driving yourself crazy trying to get the difference between a 13-point assignment score and a 14-point assignment score, you are maybe not using your time as wisely as you might. Um, if MyITLab is giving you an issue, you know that you hit submit on something and it just won't let you through, take a screenshot of that, send it to me, close the window, and keep going. I'm going to do what I can to get you the points that you've earned in a timely fashion that allows you to just keep your traction, keep your momentum, and keep moving forward. I've seen many students, good students, studious students that want to succeed very, very highly, essentially chew away and waste their time trying for, 5 more points. I just know I can get 5 more points if I do this. Yeah, but in the long run, that may not pay the same dividend you're expecting. If something weird is happening with MyITLab, take a screenshot of it, send it to me in a message, describe to me what's happening, and I'll try to get you the points for that. If for whatever reason, something else, you're just not understanding a question. Not every question can be written in a universally understood way. As somebody who's written tests before, I can tell you that's true. I'll look at a test and say, "Yep, perfectly clear." That question is as unambiguous as possible. And I have a half a dozen students come back to me and say, "What do you mean?" So I don't think that every question can be written for every student the same way. So if a question is tripping you up, you know the answer, but you're not getting what it is that they're trying to ask you, keep going forward. There's lots of points here. The big heavy hitters are the hands-on grader projects and the hands-on um, the test essentially set for the projects. Those are the big points. Make sure that you can get those. You have multiple attempts on those as well. That's really where I would say to focus my time. So try not to be, um, really hung up on every last little point. I know that's going to be difficult for some of you. That's just what studious students do. I understand. But this system and all computer-based training models like this are really set up to drive you crazy if you don't have a little bit of flexibility to go, yeah, okay, let's just keep moving on. As I just mentioned a moment ago, what I'll have you do is in that middle column there, if you go ahead and click over through to the 29th, and then scroll all the way down to the bottom of the assignment listing there, there's the first of the two grader projects. Now, every other project, every other assignment you do here in MyITLab is going to be essentially in a pop-up window. In a pop-up window that runs a plugin. It's like Flash. It's not quite. They're replacing all the Flash plugin stuff because actually we'll talk about it in conjunction with one of our chapters later on. Flash is the devil. So this system uses something that gives us that interactivity, but does not actually bring hell along with it for the most part. Way down there, we've got Word Chapter 1 Grader Project, and we've got the Chapter 2 Grader Project. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the Not Started flag for the Chapter 1 Grader Project. This may or may not take a moment to pop up. Um, Things that I will tell you here that are true. Number one, you absolutely positively need to have Office 2016 installed already, or you have to have access to Office 365. So for many of you, or for some of you who are coming from uh, a, a Mac operating system, I'm actually here on a Mac operating system. I actually think it feels way nicer than a PC operating system. You're entitled to your opinions, but if you like PCs better, you're wrong. So if you're on a Mac, you have to have the Office 2016 from that link I have available for you on the homepage. If you're on a PC, you have to have Office 2016 as was available for that link I provided for you on the homepage. Otherwise, if you are on a Chromebook, honestly, you're going to have some issues with MyITLab. By some issues, I mean colossal, major, horrendous, horrific, very hard to deal with issues. So if you have a Chromebook, please, please, please reach out to me immediately, right now. Hit pause, go message me, and come back. And we'll try to look at some alternatives. Chromebooks are really not going to work just because of the way things work. If you have the Windows 10 tablets or previous versions of Microsoft Surface tablets that did not have, or any other kind of tablet, that's also true, that did not have the capacity to run any program that you did not install from the Windows Play Store, you can use Office 365 online to do any and all of the homework that will actually work for you. So make sure you have those before you start the greater project. So go ahead and click Start. And then this particular screen that you see here, the four boxes here, and this instruction set is unique and particular to the greater projects. All of the rest of them, like I mentioned before, are in a window, self-contained in MyITLab in the browser. These greater projects, you actually download a set of files. So you'll actually download, that's on the left-hand side there, it will say Download Materials. You can either download the files individually, or if you know you have a system that's capable of, it's called unarchiving or unzipping a zip file. If you have a computer system that is capable of taking this class, you are very probably okay. You can actually click the Download All Files there. Personally, I think it's immaterial. It's a horse apiece. When I'm on my Mac, I actually download all files. Macs don't have this temporary file structure issue that Windows oftentimes does. If you're on a Windows PC, and when I'm on one of my Windows PCs, I actually find it's faster for me to click the downloads one at a time. Because I will not accidentally fall into the trap of trying to use a temporary copy of the file, which all Windows PCs are going to do. I do this at least twice a semester in the classroom. I'll be working with a student. I'll grab a copy of this, just out of haste. I'll just click on all downloads. I'll click my way through to one of these three documents that are in here. There's actually an instructions document. There's a document that you'll actually change as you're going through. And then there's another set of instructions that you can see in a list format. So we're just trying to give you as many materials as possible so that you can follow through in whatever format makes sense for you. But on a Windows PC, if you just download all files, click through to the folder it gives you, it didn't really do what's called unarchiving. It didn't unzip that folder. It's giving you temporary access to a temporary copy of that particular file. And when you go to save it, it has the potential to misname the file so that when you upload the file later on, MyITLab can say you didn't hand in the right file, and essentially you burn through one of your submissions. I try very, very hard. I suggest it's true with my Windows PC users, is that I understand 3 clicks is greater than 1, but you'll actually save yourself time and potential heartache if you just go through and download those files one at a time. Once you've downloaded those files, there's essentially a set of instructions. Actually, there's two sets of instructions. It just depends whether or not you like paragraph style or a list style set of instructions. They're identical. And essentially what you do is you go through the list of instructions and you complete the commands as they have them in there for you. So it'll say, change the paragraph that starts with the quick brown fox to title 1 formatting. And you just go through and you actually complete updating the document based on the directions that they give you. All the while, please, please, please save with a constant suspicious vigilance. It's been a long time since Word or other Office programs crash with relative frequency, but they crash nonetheless. In order just to make sure that in catastrophic circumstances that you don't lose a lot of work, just save frequently. It turns out to work in your favor on the other side. When you are done with the assignment, it's going to tell you to save the file with a certain file name. That certain file name is going to contain your last name. When you do that, what it essentially does is it says, hey, this particular student got this particular file and saved it with their particular name. That's part of that whole academic dishonesty checking that MyITLab does. Make sure you rename the files in the way that you are told to. That's one of the biggest issues I see. Is it's something that I would do. I can totally see myself doing it. I skipped misnaming the step. I simply saved it the whole while, and then I just hastily went to go upload it. Just take your time there. Make sure that you're doing the naming structure the way that the list of instructions tells you, and you won't get accidentally flagged for cheating. When you're all done, come back to that page you just opened, the Word Chapter 1 greeter or grader hands-on. When you want to upload your file, you'll click through on Choose File, wherever it was that you saved your file. You'll go ahead and select the file with the name that you changed. And when you're done uploading that file, you'll say Submit for grading. Once you say Submit for grading, it's a little anticlimactic. The window simply goes poof and it goes away. That's okay. It means that it was submitted. Now, the grading for that does not always happen instantaneously. I always go get another cup of water or something so I can come back and check the grading on that. For most students, it'll happen in real time, very, very quickly. For some, just based on server load, things that are outside of your control on the MyITLab side, sometimes it takes a little longer. With these grader projects, once you have handed them in and once they are scored, it'll tell you you've got a specific score, 80 out of 100. It will tell you, for example. We can do better than that. So that's your first submission. And on these grader projects, again, this is just me talking for me in my experience and what I would do. This is up to you. But for me, what I would do is come back here to the list of assignments on the 29th on the assignment calendar. Scroll all the way down to the bottom just in case it's forcing you to do that again, and go to the Word Chapter 1 Grader Project. Now find those 3 vertical dots. If you click through on those, the middle option is View Submissions. Now, you do not have a submission. I understand that you do not have a submission, but when you do, on the left-hand side of the window that's going to pop up there for you, you're going to see your first attempt. It's going to say Attempt 1. It's going to tell you got an 80 out of 100, and then it's going to have for you on the right-hand side, you're going to click through to view that submission. There's 2 files available for you that I suggest are going to be of great interest. There's the detail report and the grade report. If you follow through on the detail report and the grade report, essentially what it does is it tells you on number 3, you got 2 out of 7 points for missing the following issue. And on the detail report, it'll actually highlight the place where you can see that in your document. On your second attempt, what I am telling to you is you can reverse engineer a perfect score or a nearly perfect score nearly every time, as long as you have the patience to come back, to view your previous submissions, to go through the detail and the grade report, and to eliminate whatever errors it is that MyITLab suggests that you might find there. It's a great way to come back and recoup a ton of points. And remember, these are worth essentially 30% of your grade. These points hit very, very hard, and it's a fantastic way to come back and really recoup some of that points deduction that I know drives everybody crazy. So for the time being, that is it in MyITLab. There's really no other way to get familiar with the system other than going through and using it. So go ahead, get started. There is a lot of support material. There are several assignments to actually get through here for the first week. This first week is essentially the lightest workload you are going to see. Make sure that you are acclimating yourself. Make sure that you are on board with everything that is happening. And it's my suggestion, if you are ahead, if you find yourself midweek and you're ahead and you're really cruising through the material, just to keep going through everything else. I have, at this moment, everything is published in MyITLab. So you can see the entire layout of everything that is going to come for the semester. It is already all here. In the quiet weeks where you know that you've got a little bit more time, work ahead. So that way, as we come into, a stretch where you're pretty sure that, you've got Halloween coming up, the kids are going and we're trick-or-treating. I've got a Saturday or a Sunday blocked off for that. That's going to take a big chunk of my time out. I've got 2 important Monday night football games to watch. I know I'm not going to have as much time those weeks. Okay, let's, manage your schedule to work around that. There's everything available to you there now. Remember, not everything has to be clicked on. If it says not viewed, that does not count against you if you do not click through to it. On the other hand of that, if you need any support materials for the chapters, if you need any support materials for the Word, the Excel, the Access, the PowerPoint, the Office software, all of those support materials are there and available to you. If you would even like a larger download so that you can just grab everything, reach out with a message, and I'll tell you where it is that you can locate the large download where you can get essentially everything so that you can, instead of downloading them one at a time, just go through a folder and go get those. So MyITLab is where you're going to spend your time. MyITLab is where your gradebook is going to be. And MyITLab is essentially going to be your constant companion between now and December. So have at it, everybody. Good luck. There are more podcasts here. I'm going to support all of the material through the chapters, all of the office material with these podcasts as we go through. So you haven't gotten rid of me just yet. But go spend a little bit of time with your new best friend, MyITLab.